So yeah, man. So you read The Neighbors, huh?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. Based on your recommendation.
Yeah. I blame you.
Why do you blame me?
Cause I tell you, like, I'm always working and shit, and like, you know what? Maybe spend an hour reading something for fun.
Yeah.
And so I got that. I bought issue 1 on Comixology, RIP, because I think it's gonna be the last thing I read on Comixology.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. But that's a whole other video.
Yeah.
But I might still read one more thing, but I'm canceling my subscription for Unlimited. Like that's just, but yeah, I don't want. If I wanted Kindle, I would download Kindle.
Right.
I got a Kindle right here that I don't use. You know, in fact, for the video, I should just break it.
You should not break that.
But either way, it's like, you know, the only reason I have that is so I can buy stuff on Comixology because they don't. You can't look. They're trying to do all this shit, but they can't make you buy shit on iOS. You know, and it's like, you know, I don't know what Android does, and I know you don't either because you don't buy digital comics.
No.
So, you know, it's wasted on you. But for me, it's like, yeah, just concentrate on selling me comics like digitally on Apple. But you know, irregardless. You told me to read stuff for fun.
Yeah.
Not for the show. And then, of course, I make a video about it.
Because content's king.
Content's king. And it's like, what's the point of reading comics if you can't talk about it with your friends?
Amen.
You know?
Share your experience.
I've been spoiled by the live stream we do 6:30 Wednesday night. But I've been spoiled because like I literally talk to my friends about comics.
Yeah.
For a living.
Right.
So,
right.
It's like now I can't do it
without talking about it.
Emily's like, leave me alone. Like, babe, did you see this? It's like, no, I don't read that. I read other things.
I read other things.
But yeah, so.
So how did you come to like across The Neighbors itself though?
I did want to do, you know, thematically for the live stream. I wanted to do all horror comics in October because 'tis the season.
Tis the season.
And
even though it's November now.
Yeah. But that was one of the ones that popped on the list, and I didn't get to read them. I read other ones on the list. We reviewed some of those. You can check that link up here. Yeah. But then I eventually, like, I was like, oh, I have this downloaded in my downloads. Let me read it. And so I read it. And yeah, I read the first issue. I'm like, okay, it's kind of good. By the time I reached the end of the first issue, I'm like, let me buy all 5 of them. Like, there's only 5 out. I didn't know if it was only 5 as a series.
Right.
And then, yeah, sure enough, it's only 5 in the series. I bought all of them. And then I'm like, Larry, read this.
Yeah.
I'm cutting it here.
It's wild because it's definitely a horror comic, but it feels very unconventional because of like the family at the center of it. You know, because it's like, you know, you don't. I mean, even in today's or by today's standards, it's like there's not a lot of comics that like have a central character that's trans, let alone a central character that's a black trans man. You know, so it's like, yeah, that alone is like, okay, like this is a whole different kind of dynamic, and it's interesting because that's not like the central point of the whole thing, but at the same time, or I guess maybe the way well, yeah, and I would say it is, but not in the way that I think people would think of it.
When you read the first issue, you don't think it is. You know, like, because I'm not ashamed to admit it. I had a Comicsgate moment.
What happened?
Because I'm like, I read it, it's like, oh, they made this guy's a trans guy. It's like, no,
it doesn't need to be
this
trans.
This story would be the same from what they showed me already.
Right.
I'm like, the story would be the same if you're not trans.
Right.
You know?
But it's not.
And then
you're right.
once you get to issue 2, it's like, wow, like.
Yeah.
Like, if this was a story about an agoraphobic, nobody would have a Comicsgate moment, you know, of a agoraphobic person. But this dude has agoraphobia and part of it is because he's trans. It's like it's a different way of handling the trans things in fiction, and representation as it is.
Right.
You know, again, it's like I had a comic geek moment, and I'm like, comics. You know, I fucked up.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like I learned from it, and man, I'm glad I did, because the way the story played out.
Yeah.
You know.
And it is. I think you're right in the sense that, like, it is central to the character and to the plot, but not in the way that it's usually centered.
Right.
And I think, and I mean, at the end of the day, it's because it's all character driven.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like, but it makes sense where you're like, you know, like especially in this day and age, like being a trans person is a particular part of your identity. But that gets put to the forefront in ways sometimes that you may not ask for, and that's kind of like what this book is about. You know, it's about that aspect and how that affects a person.
Also, the disclaimer is like none of us here are trans, so we're only speaking as outsiders.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's my interpretation of what I read. You're right, because
sometimes allies, depending on the situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I mean, I would definitely call myself an ally, but who knows how good of an ally I am or am not.
Like if Charles Manson was a trans, would you be an ally?
Look, I'd be like, he used to be a woman?
Like, well, those hormones now.
Those hormones doing their thing. But no, yeah, it's interesting, and it's and also too, another thing that was really interesting too, because it was like, not only did it center, you know, the black trans person, but it also centered a mom, and it was interesting because the way how she talked about being a mother and how like stories aren't really about moms, like, you know, and I'm like, wow, like, you know, I never really thought of it like that. But that is kind of true in some ways where, you know, I mean, you do have stories that are specifically about moms, but then unless a story is, and you know, it might be a little weird saying it, but it's like, unless a story is specifically about motherhood, it's like moms don't really get to be like the center of a story. Like it might be a person that maybe happens to have kids.
The way I use it, especially in horror specific, I use it is these are movies that are like, okay, you shouldn't have had kids. Like if you didn't have kids, this movie would never happen. Like the Babadook and Larry, you know, or Come Play With Me, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know you hate that one particularly.
Oh my God.
Watch Larry here. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those movies like if you just didn't have kids, but it's like, you know, again, that's almost a reproductive rights issue for horror. You know, it's like it's her woman, her choice in horror. You know, because it's it's like technically a bitch, you shouldn't have spread your legs. You know, but that's the argument the Supreme Court made. You know, and they won. But it's like, you know, in horror, it's like and then here it is. It's like if she didn't have kids, like, you know, that would have changed this story. So when it comes to the mom story, it's a different. Like you said, it's a different mom type of story.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, the story itself is like, it's definitely something I feel like you have to experience. Because it's not like, I mean, I feel like, you know, you could try to recount the story to somebody, but I don't know how much
even if you try to explain it. Yeah. No, this is the perfect one to review in a sense like this, especially between two of us instead of four. Like we usually do, because it is almost a conversational piece. Yeah. It's more of like, what did you get from it? What did I get from it? You know, because the creepiness isn't, the creepiness is there. It turns out the creepiness is good. You know? And then it's like, which I've seen before, which it's fine, I love that. Right. But it's also somebody like you who doesn't have the sensibility for horror like I do. Right. Or did the openness to experience horror the way I do. It might be a different experience for you, like just like, why she gotta be good but creepy, you know? Yeah. So and that you get some of that here, and then but you also get like the family dynamic. Yeah. You know, and that's like sometimes that's more terrifying than what's happening. That's why they always weave it into other stories like The Purge. It's like it's more about the characters in that situation. Situations like a MacGuffin at this point,
right?
Things like The Purge and shit like that. And I felt like this one was kind of like that. Like it reminded me of The Purge or Get Out.
Yeah.
You know, Us. You still haven't seen Us, right?
I haven't seen Us, but I definitely like, because I know what Us is about.
Yeah.
I definitely got all that, and and the book itself even references Get Out.
Yeah.
And so you can tell like it doesn't. It's not shy about its
influences.
Its influences, exactly.
Well, I also feel like as much as it is influence, it adds to that. Like, I feel like Get Out, Us, and is it Mama or Ma? I forget. But there's a new. This is the new wave of horror movies that are kind of done in the traditional like good horror movie style, like like Rosemary's Baby or stuff like that, slow burn horror. And they are so far they've been done with black casts, and because that adds a whole other undertone,
right,
to the horror,
right.
And I guess that's and that's kind of what we get here. It's the undertones add to the horror, because they don't even explain the horror. No, really.
No, they just kind of allude to some stuff.
And then you just see this crazy mushroom monster.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's definitely open to interpretation, and they leave it open like intentionally.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it kind of felt like, okay, like this easily could be chapter 1. And so it's kind of like, we'll see if they like revisit or they just leave it as is, and either way it's fine. I mean, I think that it definitely comes across, despite not giving you all the answers, it still comes across as a complete story, and it's wild, like how it simultaneously is able to do that, like feel like it's a complete story, but also leave many things like unanswered, and just like, and I guess frankly like open to interpretation, where you're just like, what, like you said, it's a conversation piece. What do you think happened? Like why do you think it went down this way versus that way?
Where should it go? How would it have gone down if you wrote?
What kind of scared me more was the baby
with the nails.
Yeah. I was just like, oh.
Again, that's one of those points. Emily's like, what? Like, cause I'm like, oh shit, look at this. And then she just looked at it, and I'm like, oh, and and that's one of the things the book does well is those last pages. Like from issue 1 through 3 or 4.
I agree.
Those last pages, the cliffhanger pages, they do them masterfully.
Yeah, I agree.
It's almost like a commercial break.
Next issue,
like if it was a TV show, it'd be a commercial break.
Right.
Because you're gonna watch that downy like little snuggle bear run around to see what happens next. You're
gonna watch the downy snuggle bear. That's funny.
Yeah. Because that's how they got me, is with the cliffhanger pages.
Yeah.
So if they didn't do anything right, they did those right.
Right.
But technically they did a lot of it right.
Right.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the ending?
It was interesting. Like I liked it. However,
What's up, bro? What's up, man? Yeah. I'll be with you in a little bit.
It was just like, it left a lot of questions, and like I think overall, like I feel like I got what was coming, like, or I think I got, or let me put it like this: I feel like I understood what they were trying to convey, but at the same time, that's just what I'm thinking, like there's no way for me to know what they were actually trying to convey, because they leave it open to interpretation. So I'm just like, okay, well, I think I get it, and it's like one of those things where it's like, well, it's like it would be interesting to see what happens next, but at the same time, I could understand why you would maybe not revisit, and you just leave it leave it where it is, because it's like, your imagination gets to kind of fill in the blank, you know?
Yeah. And to a certain degree, that unanswering adds to the creepiness. You know?
100%.
Because once you get too many answers, too many explanations, then it's like, oh, now the other side it's not scary.
Right.
It's like, this is just a being that's trying to live amongst us.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And, you know, they don't know how to handle it.
Right.
And we're stupid humans that don't care about the environment. Like, it could be an eco-terrorist.
Right, right. No, for real, right?
You know, it's like, oh, all of a sudden there's no oxygen, they have to live under another dimension underground.
Right.
They found a portal. How did they find the portal? Who cares? It's not scary.
Right.
So, yeah. So overall, what would you rate it? 5 out of 5, 6 out of 5, 7 out of 5?
8 out of 5. No. It's high. Like it honestly, it's either like 4.5 or 5 out of 5, one or the other. Like, and I'm just trying to think of, you know, I mean, honestly, I feel like I think I will just give it 5 out of 5 because it's like I want to know things, but it's like me wanting to know things is them doing their job good, not bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, like that's just literally me being like, yeah, I think 5 out of 5, just because it has good characters, it's an interesting story, it's a unique kind of setting. It's like everybody has their own little quirks and stuff. Like the parents are super well fleshed out. Mm-hmm. You know, and the kids.
Even the kids, like they're not fleshed out, but they serve their purpose.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like the kids actually, like you can tell the kids have character and personality. Yeah. It's just more the circumstances of what's happening don't let them be at the center, and that's okay. Because, what about you?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a 4 out of 5. Like I feel like I needed to know a little more, like, especially if I didn't get any other series with it.
Yeah.
I need that underling people living under us in another dimension. Like I need more explanation of that. If it's gonna be if that's the end, if I'm never gonna get anything else.